Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Legacy Leaders. Scott McMeans here. I am blessed to have Trevor Tiche from Team VIAC here today. We're going to talk about a number of things. Mainly, what we're going to talk about is his ability to take people from a position of, what would you say, Trevor? Not being as the most positive mindset to getting a really solid positive mindset when they're done with your program. Is that a good way of putting it?
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
Okay. I don't do it justice, so I'm going to turn the microphone and camera over to you. You tell the people what it is you do, how well you do it, and how does it that you started Team VIAC?
Sure. I guess, just a quick background. We started Team VIAC as a nonprofit organization in January of 2021, with the express purpose to, I guess, like bolster an individual's ability to create coping mechanisms that are healthy for those veterans who are diagnosed with PTSD and anxiety. So we do, a number of things. The first, I'd say, and foremost, we um, create an atmosphere where they can focus on their fitness and nutrition, um, as well as mindfulness. And then the big one is the adventure therapy, which kind of the main
Yeah.
thing that separates us from other people. Um, yeah, so we have a fitness center, or what we call the training center, and the kind of another part of it is that we allow civilians or non-veterans into the facility, which help to support the cause through their memberships and donations.
Okay.
So,
So first off, I want to thank you for your service and commitment to the United States. I appreciate that. It's one of the most admirable things people can do. So thank you very much for your service. And in addition, I want to thank you for taking this step to provide an avenue for people with PTSD to do better than what traditional mechanisms have done in the past. And what I like about, as we'll get into it, the discussion that you have about health, fitness, mindset, and it all kind of comes together on this, what you have phrased adventure therapy, which I think is a brilliant way of doing it. How many times you've climbed a mountain, but I want you to tell people how this adventure therapy works and what has it been proven to do that maybe perhaps not or other traditional methods haven't been able to do yet?
well, first of all, I would say that adventure therapy necessarily isn't for everybody. PTSD in general and anxiety disorders, they're kind of unique to the individual. So not every modality is going to probably work for everybody. But I discovered this worked for me, and I thought, there's a really good chance this will work for other
Yeah.
people, right? So we kind of started experimenting with it over the last, we're into our fifth year now. So, it's been working really well. And it really just is a matter of taking these veterans and putting them in a situation where they're with like-minded people, people who will literally understand exactly what they've been through, other veterans, right? So sort of like your
Yeah.
veterans helping veterans, and letting them utilize skills that they probably haven't used since the military. And the U.S. government is really good at training our soldiers how to do crazy, amazing things, right? They have all these skills, and we just let them utilize those again. I mean, we have a large population from the combat arms, or like your infantry guys, your artillery guys, um, special operations guys. This is one area that seems to be heavily like inundated with the PTSD, or however you would want to say that. But we also have like pilots,
Yeah.
and so all those skills we can utilize as we collect them. We have mountaineers, we have people who scuba dive, we have skydivers, we have pilots, and we can utilize all of these things together to kind of like create the better adventures and more camaraderie. So,
Yeah, I love the idea of reinvent or reinvigorating the mindset of a soldier or a Marine, a Navy seaman, whatever the case may be, in that you get a chance to reignite the training and the skill sets that you've had for years, and you get a chance to use them again. So let's walk back into what are the different phases or different episodes that you work on with Team VIAC to bring somebody into the program, have them go through it. And I don't know if you would call it necessarily graduation, but how do you work somebody through the program so there's a connection between what they are now versus who they were before? Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure. I mean, first of all, there's not really like an end game to it. It's a constant process, and anyone who's working on themselves through what you do with coaching, there's always room for improvement. It's a constant process, and we're just trying to open up avenues or doorways where they can build those coping mechanisms that they can do with their families or they can do with other friends. We've had fishing trips and different things like that are simple, not just like the intense type adventure stuff. But really, it just starts with a major problem that not only do the veterans have, but we have as an organization, and we found this out very quickly, is that I mean, you would think that the major problem would be like support or funding, and those come with their own challenges too. But the main problem is just getting participation. And I believe that this is because a lot of veterans they have to be tough. That's what they're trained to do. Something horribly tragic happens, and they have to continue with the mission. So a lot of them sort of isolate in that way, and they don't want to search help. They have the attitude, let someone else do it. They need it more than me thing. So it's been a challenge to reach out and try to, mostly using like grassroots at the beginning. We have a number of different ways we do that, but um, get them into the facility, because if they don't come in, there's nothing we can do. And so we get them in there. They're starting to just simply exercise again. Maybe, trade the bad habits that seem to come along with post-traumatic stress, alcohol use, drug use, those types of things. Trade those things for more positive things like healthy nutrition, drink more water, switch to coffee, like whatever the case is. Um, so yeah, they get into the facility and they start to exercise, they start to feel better. And then we offer like monthly, there's always something we're doing extra that would be considered like our adventure therapy. And it may be simply just our hiking club that they start, like maybe they are overweight and they haven't done anything for a while, and we're not out there. It's not like boot camp. Not like they're back in the military. It's all very easy team building type stuff. And we're out there to have fun, not to relive our military days necessarily. So
Okay, I can appreciate that. Thank you, because I would imagine it could be very intense, or you could have something as very simply laid out to something that's very intense, depending on what people are capable of. One thing you hit on, I want to make sure that those veterans that may be watching this would have a better understanding for why it's important to take the step to move towards an adventure therapy or working with you. And I love the idea that you said, because of their attitude, their service first attitude, they always think somebody else deserves it more than I do. Let them take it. At some point, I think veterans need to realize we're all here to support them because they've done so much to support us and the way we live. So, in my mind, let's break down that barrier and have veterans realize it's okay to ask for help. Vulnerability is a strength, and you can, in fact, stretch yourself away from this, this seclusion to what it is you need. Does that make sense?
it does. And then that brings up another really good point, which is the non-veteran members of the facility.
Yeah.
So if you're a non-veteran, the way they support, there's really two ways. So of course, their donation or their membership is directly, funding these adventure therapy and the equipment we need and the repairs of the equipment, things like that. But secondarily, there's like a component where it builds community. So now the veteran who maybe feels isolated is right there in the gym with a civilian, and they realize quickly, like, we have this in common, and maybe they start talking and or networking or whatever their business is or whatever. And I think they start to kind of come out of their shell, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
That and you see at first it's like the headphones in, I'm doing my workout, and then the headphones come out, and then they start to interact. Next thing you know, they're helping each other, and it's kind of like an amazing thing. It happens really quickly, but that really helps to get the guys sort of out of that shell and realize like maybe I do fit in society after all.
I'm not such an oddball. There are other people that feel the way I do, regardless of what uniform they did or did
Yeah.
not wear. That's a good piece. And I just wrote a note, Trevor, I just realized you're in the people business. That's what you do. You're helping people get to a better state, whether it's mentally, physically, what have you. And building that community around them is one of the most powerful things you can do because that's something they now believe and feel like, all right, I'm a part of something again, right?
Yeah.
That's a big piece. As you built this thing out, again, you've been around for 5 years. How is it that you would describe the challenge of getting this thing off the ground? What were some of the bigger challenges that you faced?
Um, there's, I mean, a plethora of challenges, but I would say the biggest would be just the outreach itself. And we started, like I said earlier, like a grassroots sort of campaign with it, just getting out there in the community, whether it's a festival or a fair, um, birthday parties, just local events. Generally, me and one of our founding members drove to South Dakota from Ohio in like a couple of days. We took a truck out and we picked up this 25-foot high mobile rock wall. And that's been tremendous for like outreach because kids absolutely love it. So we take it
Yeah,
to a festival or a fair, and now the kids climbing it. So I have a captive audience. And I can talk to the parents, and almost everybody knows someone who's in the military, and a lot of people know people who are struggling, and it kind of builds from there, at least at first. Now,
yeah.
of course, we're on, the endless amount of social media platforms that are out there. Um, Trying the best we can to keep up with it, which is almost a full-time job in itself. And now you have the advent of AI. So,
Oh,
learning as much as we can about that because that's not going away anytime soon, probably. I feel like the more we learn about that, the more useful that can become for us as well. So,
that's great. Now, granted, it's a big challenge to get people to know where you are and what you do. It's almost living in that world of obscurity. There's not a whole lot to do if nobody knows you're around. But once you get people paying attention to you, and I love the idea of the rock wall, what happens when they get engaged? How does that process move forward with somebody? Just walk me through how's it work when somebody says yes, they want to be a part of the program.
it's a number of different ways because we don't have just veterans with PTSD. We
Yeah,
also offer like extremely reduced memberships for regular veterans. So it's only like $10 a month, and they get everything there is to have at the facility. So uh, typically, someone will contact us via our website or social media. Once in a while, maybe just come in, or phone, the old school way of calling on the phone. But they'll typically, come in and get signed up, get started, depending on whether they fit into what we consider our veteran evolution membership, which is the people who can prove that they have a rating of PTSD or anxiety. Um, and then they will get a free membership. And it usually just starts where, we kind of kid gloves it at first, like
yeah,
how much you want to talk about it, what you want to share. I'm not going to push, I'm not going to ask. If you don't want any help, if you just want to come and work out, that's fine too, because that's better than nothing, right?
yeah.
Um, and then we serve currently in the facility over 200 local veterans, but we do have veterans all over the country that participate in what we do. So that's just kind of how it starts usually. And once in a while, we'll have something out there on social media that talks about what we're going to do, some event. And once in a while, I'll get somebody from, the people who are outside of the general area where our training center is, will be like, hey, I really want to do that. In which case, we kind of, I guess, sort of sign them up, right, on our system. So we have their information. And then we create a training plan for that specific event. If they haven't been training, if they're not fit, if they have concerns, I may say, okay, if you can walk 10 miles in 3 hours with 20 pounds on your back, that's the goal. You'll be fine. You know what I mean?
Okay,
Um, Something that's not extraordinarily out of the ordinary, for someone to do,
okay.
but may take a little training.
That's awesome. I the fact that I can become a member and then my membership helps somebody that's a veteran dealing with certain issues can join for free. That's a really good point. And that's a really good value proposition that you bring to the market. So I want to make sure that people understand that. As we stretch outside of the fitness center and we start looking at some of the adventure therapy things that you've done, again, that's for veterans and non-veterans. where are some of the locations and some of the things you do to bring people on an adventure therapy event?
There's a lot of, I guess from the outside looking in, it just looks like amazing. Wow, you guys went to Iceland. You climbed Valhalla, the biggest mountain in Iceland. And there's rainbows and waterfalls and volcanoes. It's like a magical place, right? But behind the scenes, there's a lot of logistics involved,
Yeah.
which I think our military background actually helps. Dealing we sort of use what the military would consider an operations order because it's familiar with, or most of the veterans. They know what this is. So there's a process we go through that explains to them every aspect of what's going to happen, to their packing list, to what their training schedule should be like, flights, times. Everything is broken down by the hour for these adventures. So we know when we're on the mountain, we're going to be here at this time and we're going to eat at this time and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Um, and it's familiar to them, and it sort of gives them a little comfort, I believe, because they're like, oh wait, I remember this. But we have been from the East Coast and the White Mountains in New Hampshire. We've been to Washington. We've been to the most recently the Sawtooth Mountains in Idaho, which totally beautiful. Like I was so surprised by that. If you've never been there,
No,
of
I
course,
haven't.
yeah, the Rocky Mountains. We've been all over the place mountaineering, and we've done some mountain biking locally, kayaking locally. We haven't gotten too far because, of course, that creates another logistical problem because you have more equipment. You have kayaks and mountain bikes to transport. Um, we do have plans for that in the future. We're currently trying to raise money to purchase like a box truck or some type of enclosed trailer where we
Okay.
can reach out a little further with those experiences.
I like the idea that you do more than just one thing. There's a lot more to it. Let me ask you this. When you're putting this together, what would you say is the lesson that you've learned that's given you the most traction to keep moving forward?
I think that the lesson it was just what I see, what I experience. Like when COVID happened, right? That went
Yeah.
crazy. World went crazy. Um, and everybody isolated. And during this time, uh, people who were struggling, including myself, uh, isolation was not good. It made it worse. And so I literally ran away to the mountains. I grabbed a buddy who was out of work and I said, let's go. And we went to the Rocky Mountains. And it was so just a magical experience, just hiking for days and days and sleeping outside that I was like, this could really help other people. So when I have a veteran come in that I maybe don't know, and I pick them up at the airport in Denver, and then we drive, a group of guys out to Rocky Mountain National Park, and they're kind of, okay, I'm here. My name's so and so. It's kind of you can tell the depression is there. You can tell they're kind of quiet. And by the time they leave, they're hugging and laughing, and you can see in 4 days the change is so amazing. Like that to me is no matter what the struggle is, no matter it's finances or fundraising or just weather, it could be any of the struggles that we face. Um, lets me know that I'm doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Like I feel that I'm doing the right thing because I've discovered this thing that really can change a person's attitude so fast.
Yeah, it's crazy. You said it's 3 or 4 days, right? That these adventures take place. So, what is the element? What is the special secret sauce that allows that to take place with, I would imagine, a bunch of strangers, right?
Largely, yeah. There's a lot. Sometimes, guys will know each other. They maybe will apply together or whatever. But I think the magic is between like the brotherhood. That's the thing that I think a lot of civilians won't get. And unless maybe they've been a part of sports teams that are really close knit, like maybe you're on a state championship baseball team or something like that. Maybe you can kind of feel that a
Hmm.
little bit. But the military is like the US military is like the world's largest fraternity. And they understand the language. They understand it. They could be a Navy guy and a Marine woman or an Air Force woman, and they come together out in these adventures and they speak the language. It doesn't take long. All of a
Mhm.
sudden, you see it happen, and I don't know if how I can explain it clearly, but that's the secret sauce, I guess, right there is just you're reconnecting this fraternity that they have maybe forgotten about.
I think you nailed it. It's a brotherhood. It's a camaraderie that happens only among those that have been through it. And when you've been through it and you see somebody else that's been through it, I can only imagine that instant connection because I know what you've gone through, brother. I know what you've been through, sister. I can feel it. I can sense it. And there's a release. I'm not trying to inject myself into it, but you're explaining it in such a way, Trevor, that I can't imagine any other way it happening other than a release of I'm home. I'm with people I know. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
It's powerful. I mean, there's a lot of things that a lot of people in this country need. And in my opinion, the military needs a lot of assistance with the transition from their military life into civilian life, for lack of a better word. And this is a really good opportunity for somebody to take a hold of part of them and continue it on so they can make that transition easier. I appreciate what you're doing. I think it's amazing. Um, we talk about challenges, we talk about lessons. From you putting this business together, this nonprofit, what are the things that you'd like a business owner to know that you've learned from to say, if you're going to do this, here's a lesson from me to you that I want you to learn? What would that be?
It's it's hard to pinpoint one mistake
Yeah.
or one way that I went wrong because there's quite a few of them. Um, but if I think about it, I I think probably hubris.
Oh, okay. Explain this to me.
So I think this because when you create something that's yours and you think, okay, I thought this is my baby, and all around you, there's people who are professionals who are saying, hey, did you think about this? And you think, no, like this is my baby. I'm
Hmm.
successful. Look what I did. But over time, if you were open minded to take advice,
Hmm.
and listen for a second and drop that sense of pride. Pride is great. Pride is important,
Yeah.
and you should feel pride when you create something. But there's a point where you have to think, okay, I have to be humble and listen to what these other people are saying because I have to adapt. Like, you know, even the greatest businesses in the world, that have been around for McDonald's, they've adapted over time. It's like,
Yeah.
um, and I've only been doing this now for, not even 5 years. And we've had to adapt multiple times. And I think that if I would have at the beginning not had that hubris, I think that I maybe could have moved forward quicker than I
Okay.
did.
And it's an interesting thing for you to say because in my mind, I'm thinking of a military person having an ego or a lot of humility is not something that is easily done for you. Correct me if I'm wrong,
It
right? Because
definitely
you've been trained, you've been put through a ringer, you know exactly what you do, how to do it, and how well you do it. And then all of a sudden to have a humility or a little bit of humble pie, it's a hard piece to swallow, right?
it is because we're taught and trained that you make a timely decision, and that decision is the decision.
Yeah.
Whether it ends up being right or wrong, action
Mhm.
is more important.
Correct.
And not so much when there's not a battle to be fought, necessarily. So, and
Well,
timely decisions are important, I guess, but
we
advice.
You bring up a good point, though. I think the way your mind has been trained, yes, go ahead, make the decision. But what you've learned over the last 5 years, and I think a lot of this is going to be helpful for people starting off as a new business owner. It's great to have an ego because that gets you so far. It's great to have a mindset and a vision, great. But it's also to use your two ears and one mouth in direct proportion, right?
Yeah,
Listen to what's going on around you, watch what you can see going on, and then you verbalize or then you take action. And your idea of hubris is very well stated in that, okay, it's okay to listen to somebody else that may be an expert and help you out. And it's such a different piece from what you've been taught your whole military career. That's an
Hmm.
interesting piece. I like it. Um, all this put together, what is it that you want people to know about Team VIAC? What is it that you think people need to pay attention to, know, and sense as far as what you bring to the table, what value people would get out of being a part of your program?
For a civilian, it's a win-win. You 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 get to work out, you get to take part in excellent group classes. You even have access to a lot of the equipment and different things that we have for adventures. We do rent those things out. But your money that you might be spending at another gym or a corporate place is going directly to support the veterans. Um, so whether you like it or not, you're supporting veterans by just being a member of the gym and working out.
Yeah.
Uh, and For the veterans, I think that there, even if you're not struggling with PTSD, even if you don't have the anxiety, and you're just like just a veteran, like I didn't even deploy, maybe, I was just in the guard for a couple of years and I got my college money. Like it's still only $10 a month, and you are supporting your
Your
brothers and
brother.
sisters by just being there. So that's something that I think that's unique because we're sort of collecting the area veterans in a sense. Like, I mean, you have lots of other organizations like the AMVETS and the VFW and American Legion, all of these different organizations. Those are also great organizations, and they've got a long storied history behind them. But at the end of the day, it's like a bar, you know,
Hmm.
and um, although it has its place, a lot of these guys that I'm talking about, like that's what we need to get them away from. Like we've
Yeah.
had a number of guys who, they're over their 100th day sober and they didn't use any other thing than just fitness and nutrition, like in the support of other people around them.
Yeah. I think the transformation that happens on the adventure therapy is one thing that's completely mind blowing that can happen that fast, but I understand how you explain it. The other side of it is the transformation somebody can make by simply inserting them into an environment that allows them to be who they're supposed to be. And that's what Team VIAC appears to be for me, if I'm listening to what you're putting out. It's allowing people to be back into something that is supportive and constructive and allows them to grow and be different, um, without the substance or without the reliance of something else, other than they get a chance to be reliant upon themselves now.
But one thing that I would say the majority of people have never even asked is what is VIAC? What does VIAC mean?
Okay.
And it stands for Valhalla, I am coming. Okay. And we get this from trying to live a warrior lifestyle and continue that fight. You know, Here we are, taught to be warriors, taught to do our job the best we can, and being sent all over the dang world, places that we don't know the language or the food or any of that stuff. And then we come back and we're like, okay, I'm just supposed to be this normal person,
Yeah.
and it doesn't normally work like that. So, this, the word itself, VIAC, or what it stands for, is telling that person continue to live a warrior lifestyle. Don't give up. Don't give in to your demons. Don't rest and wait for life to just pass you by. You still can do amazing things. We don't have to be a warrior and go hurt people, but we can live a warrior lifestyle still, which means I'm not going to quit. I'm going to keep trying. I'm going to challenge myself constantly because
Yeah.
warriors live to face challenges. So,
I love that. The warrior lifestyle. I'm glad you explained what VIAC was. That was going to be a question because I wanted to know, but Valhalla, I am coming. That is great. Um, Final question for you. Might be a little bit different, but I want you to go back and think, if I were to put you into a time machine and send you back and you get to sit on a park bench next to an 18-year-old Trevor, what would that conversation be like?
oh man.
Yeah.
um, he'd probably say what happened. But I mean, I joined the military after 4 years of college, and it was almost like a spur of the moment decision. It wasn't anything like 9/11 drew me to it or anything. Um, it will be a strange conversation for sure, but I would say that be brave and not in the way of like you're risking your life, but with your emotion, with your um mindfulness.
Okay.
Don't be afraid of your emotion and what to um how to express it, you
Yeah.
know. It seems to be, especially for males of my generation and generations prior, a man is a man to be tough, and then the military adds another layer of a wall, and it's hard to break through with these guys. So that would be my advice is like be mindful and don't and be brave with your emotion.
Trevor, I have done this over 100 and some odd times. I have had a repeat of a very similar response to everybody. That is probably the most vulnerable and impactful answer to that question I've ever had. And I want to thank you for allowing that to be a part of the show today, because most people will say, don't waste your time, get to it, follow your dreams, be diligent. They always have a very specific drive. And for the first time, I've actually got goosebumps. So thank you. For the first time, someone's actually be brave with your emotions, be brave with your mindfulness, and be true to yourself. And I want to thank you for that because that's a really good sentiment.
Thank you.
No, dude, you awesome. This is great. I love what you do, and I want to do as much as I can to help Team VIAC get the attention it deserves. So people that are looking for this, whether they're a veteran or not, I want them to be able to tap into this resource and help you spread the message to everybody out there. And you don't have to be from Northeast Ohio. You don't have to be from around here, right? You can be
Right.
from anywhere in the country and be a part of the adventure therapy that you do, or they can come visit you, whatever. So I think you have a great tool that will help a lot of people down the road. So thank you very much.
Thanks. Thanks for
Oh,
having me.
my pleasure, man. I want to thank everybody. All the information to get a hold of Trevor will be in the description down below, so you can click and do all that. And I hope you to get a chance to do so and support what Team VIAC is all about. Trevor, thank you so much, man, and we will see everybody on the next episode of the Legacy Leaders.
All right. Thanks.